1 second. We're broadcasting. And should work now. Should work now. Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Perfect. So everyone, thank you so much for coming. This is Andy Weir here. You're going to start speaking soon enough. And Andy, I'm going to transfer now the camera so you can see people. Otherwise, it would be pretty awkward. But right here. There you go.
Hi, everybody.
There you go. People are saying hi. Awesome. What? Oh, here. There you go. There you go. Perfect. Andy, how well can you hear me?
I can hear you okay.
What is this? Okay, 1 second. Let me fix it. Andy, I'm going to transfer now the camera. You can see people. Oh, okay. There's a little delay. Right here.
Oh, are you playing the YouTube feed at the same time? Yeah, it's going to have a big delay.
There you go. No, I fixed it. I had YouTube going on. Now it's better. Awesome. Perfect. Everything's working pretty well. I will let you speak and introduce yourself. There's a lot of people here, and then we're going to go for Q&A, and that should be pretty interesting. But again, thank you so much for your time. And yeah, there you go.
Okay. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Andy Weir, and I wrote The Martian. I don't know who's read it. Raise your hand if you've read it. All right. Well, all right. That's what I like to see. I'm not sure how spoilerifically we want to be, but that'll be kind of in the Q&A section. I'll try to be careful. Let's see. So I guess I'll just kind of tell you the story behind the story. All my life, I really liked science fiction, and I always wanted to be a writer. But I also wanted to eat regularly and not live under an overpass. So when the time came to pick a career, I ended up being a computer programmer. Around the time I was 18, when I was going to college, I eat regularly. And so I went to college. I was a computer programmer for 25 years, actually. I just quit my job about a year ago. And I only did that because the Martian was making enough money that I could live off of it. I was never really willing to take a financial risk for writing, but it was always a passion of mine. And when I was in my late 20s, this would be in the late 1990s, I got laid off of AOL, and I got a good severance package, so I had a bunch of money. So I took some time off of work. And I spent 3 years writing a book, not The Martian. This is a previous one. And I tried to get it published, and it's kind of the standard thing you hear from every wannabe writer. Nobody wanted to be my agent. Nobody wanted to publish it. It just wasn't that good a book. After 3 years, I gave up and went back to computer programming. It wasn't a big failure for me. I like computer programming, but then I got to say, like, okay, I don't need to wonder what might have been. Now I gave it a whirl, and then back to engineering, which I enjoy. Anyway, fast forward a bit, and the internet starts to really become more and more popular. And so I got a website where I could just dump my creative writing. And over 10 years, I accumulated an audience of maybe 3,000 people, which is, respectable, but it's not like, hordes of fans or anything. And I'd done a bunch of web comics, short stories, and serials. And one of the serials was in 2009, I started The Martian. And it was supposed to be just a serial that I would post to my website once every month or two, or whenever I finished a chapter. I wasn't even sure if it had originally when I started, I didn't really know if I was going to have a set ending. I just thought it might just be this infinite serial, like, join us next week for the continued adventures of Mark Watney. But eventually I realized, okay, this is actually coming along nicely, and it's going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then I finished it, and I didn't think much of it. I'm like, okay, that's it. I knew my readers liked it, and they gave me a lot of positive feedback, but I just figured, okay, this was just another thing I was posting to my site. And then I started to get emails from people saying, oh, hey, I love your story, but I really hate reading it in a web page, and your website sucks, which it does. And they said, could you post an e-reader version of it? So I figured out how to do that, and I posted it to the site. And then I said, there you go, there's an e-reader version. Then I got other email from people saying, oh, I love that there's an e-reader version, but I'm not very technically savvy, and I don't know how to download a file from the internet and put it on my e-reader. Can you just put it somewhere where I can get it on Amazon? So I figured out how to do that, and it's easy to self-publish with Amazon. They just take a cut of the cover price. You don't need to put any upfront money or anything. And but they do insist that you charge at least 99 cents. So I had to set the price to that minimum of 99 cents, of which I get a cool 30 cents profit off of each one. And so I said, all right, guys, you can read it for free on my website or download it for free from my website, or you can pay Amazon $1 to put it on your Kindle for you. Take your pick. And more people bought it than downloaded it for free. And I think the reason for that is because, first off, Amazon has a huge reach into the readership market. And second off, people are willing to pay $1 to avoid technical hassles. It's just $1. It's not much. So anyway, it started making its way. The book started making its way up the top sellers list on Amazon. The top selling sci-fi, top selling fiction. Hey, there's my cat. By the way.
There's a cat.
Yeah. That's my cat, Jojo. He's feisty. All right. Well, he's just going to be back there doing his thing, staring at you. What's that? Shaky chair? Shaky chair?
Oh my god. Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, actually, Andy, okay. We're recording this.
Good. Excellent.
So, it's great.
Yeah, she's my boy. So anyway, so it started making its way up the top sellers lists in Amazon. Yes,
like our cat.
There he goes. There goes the cat. He's got important cat business to attend to. And that got the attention of Random House. A book scout at Random House had read it and said, like, oh, this might be good. And around that same time, an agent emailed me and said, hey, do you have a literary agent? Because if not, how about me? So I was like, sure, okay. I spent 3 years trying to get a literary agent and no one was interested, and now one comes to me. That was pretty weird. And then Random House contacted me and said, like, we want to talk about making a print edition of your book. And I'm like, talk to my agent. And then finally, right around the same time, 20th Century Fox contacted us and said they wanted to secure the movie rights. And I'm like, talk to my agent. And so the book deal and the movie deal came 4 days apart. So I went from like self-publishing on Kindle to like top sales, and then suddenly I had a book and a movie deal. That was kind of surprising, especially considering I didn't expect the story to have any mainstream appeal. I didn't think anybody outside of like the hardcore nerd people like myself would enjoy it. It's one of the reasons I wrote it to be so technically accurate, because those 3,000 people I told you about were all like serious, scientifically minded nerds like me, and I wrote it for them. I no clue that other people would like it, but it's been a pretty exciting ride. People usually ask about the film, so I'll pre-answer the first several questions that people give me. First off, they always say, like, what have you got, what's your part on the film? What do you do in relation to the film? And what's your involvement? And the answer is pretty much my only job on the film was to cash the check. And I did that. They did send me the screenplay to get my opinions and feedback, and I gave it to them, and they made some changes based on what I said. So it was cool. They involved me, but not because they had to. They just chose to. They could go off and do whatever they wanted with the book. Let's see. The movie comes out November 25th. For those of you who don't know the details, it's being directed by Ridley Scott. It stars Matt Damon, Jessica Chastain, Sebastian Stan, Kate Mara. There's a whole bunch of people in the film adaptation, and it's pretty cool. I've been just kind of watching it. It's all of my dreams come true. It's really awesome. I tried to make the book as technically accurate as I could because, well, like I said, I was writing it for nerds, but also it was kind of important to me. It drives me crazy when I'm reading science fiction or watching it on TV or movie or whatever, and I get what I call the uncanny valley of scientific realism. It's one thing if they say, like, oh, this ship has a warp drive and it allows us to travel many times the speed of light. I'm like, I accept that, no problem. It doesn't bother me. I'm cool with it. It's like, oh, we can go into hyperspace. Sure, whatever. Doesn't bother me. But if somebody then like goes to the moon and is walking around without a spacesuit, I'm like, no. And so it's weird that like the big, huge physics inaccuracies in stories don't bother you at all, but the little ones, well, comparatively little ones, do. And so since this was going to be such a, you know, supposed to like evoke a realistic sense of a manned Mars mission, I wanted to make sure I didn't end up in that uncanny valley. I wanted to make sure that it was realistic enough that the reader thought like, okay, I can buy this happening. I can believe this. And so that's why I put so much effort into the technical accuracy. I did a lot of research for it. I did too much research for it. I really went down the rabbit hole. I had fun with it. I like doing that stuff. I like physics and math and astrodynamics and orbital dynamics. I enjoy it. I calculated the orbital trajectories that they took to get to and from Mars. That's all accurate. I picked a launch window. So at any point in the book when it says, oh, here's the transmission time between Earth and Mars, that's the actual transmission time that will exist between Earth and Mars on that date, and so on. So what really sucked is when I did a whole bunch of math, I'd spend like days working something out and then finally get the answer. I'm like, yes. And then I'd realize this is going to be one sentence in the book. It was just like kind of a waste of time. And I like want to brag to the reader. I wanted to say like, oh, okay, look, I'm going to explain everything behind this so that you understand how hard it was for me to work it out. It took me a long time to write it. It should take you a long time to read it. But you know, so it was hard to resist that. I would just say like, okay, what does the reader actually need to know versus what I want to brag at the reader about? And so that was sort of a fine line to try to make sure that the reader understood everything they needed to know for the story to make sense, but I didn't bore them with like too much additional information. I didn't want it to read like a big long Wikipedia article. So anyway, that's kind of the basics of the story, how it came to be, and how I bungled into a book and a movie deal by mistake, and why I tried to make it so technically accurate. So that's my little spiel. I can take questions.
Awesome. I'm pretty sure people would applaud him before because it's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you. Am I like on a big monitor in the front of the class? Is it like a 1984? It's like
I can show you the setup if you want. I will show you the setup.
Obey, you know. Okay.
1 sec. I can show you the setup.
You don't have to. No, it's fine. It's fine.
I think you deserve it. So there's a classroom that's aerospace engineering, University of Michigan. People say hi. Hi.
Hi.
There you go. So right here.
Oh wow! Yeah, there I am.
There you go. You're right there. And
someone's gonna. And there's you.
That's me.
Someone's gonna run up the center aisle with a big hammer and.
Yeah, pretty much. I know people have questions, and awesome. So the way I'm gonna do, let's see how it works. I want people to come in the front and actually talk to the webcam. I think it's gonna be more realistic. If you don't feel comfortable, just scream your question, and I think Andy will listen. If he doesn't, I would just tell him.
Yeah, I might need you to relay it if I can't understand them.
Okay. First person. So just come here. The webcam's right here, so just stand. Let's see if it works. There's a person coming. There you go.
Yeah, I can see him.
There you go.
Michigan. Hi, Michigan.
So did you have a design in mind for the Hermes? Or were you just tossing some technical details into...
Yes, I definitely had a design in mind. I even drew up some sketches, but I lost them, which is too bad because... they were kind of cool. But basically, the best way to describe it is imagine just like a modern, well, just imagine like an Apollo era reentry capsule, that shape, like a cone, a rounded cone, but make it way bigger, much bigger. You know, like an order of magnitude larger, and that's like the Hermes. And what happens is it's split down the middle, and it can break into the two halves can come apart. And they're held together by guy lines and kind of inflatable tunnels. And in the center is the reactor. So there's this central column it's hard to describe. It'd be easy to show if I had a model or a picture, but there's a central column, and that's a zero-G area where they can do whatever. And there's also the reactor in there. The engines are in the back, and the two halves of the cone come far apart and are held together by guy lines and inflated tunnels, and it rotates, it spins to provide artificial centripetal gravity for the crew. And so then when it comes time to, when they got to Mars and then later, you know, when they go to Earth and stuff, it was designed to be an aerobraking shell. So you'd close up everything and you're back to that Apollo capsule shape, and then you can aerobrake with it. So it allows you artificial gravity during the long cruise stage so that you don't atrophy, but also aerobraking, which saves you a bunch of fuel. So that was, so I did put effort into designing it, yeah.
Did you do trajectory analysis with aerobraking?
No, I didn't have to. I cheated it because I like worked out all the trajectories, and the end of it was, and here they get to Earth, and I'm like, they get to Earth going pretty damn fast, but that's not my problem, right? And so I just said, as long as I say it's an aeroshell, then I can say it's all right for them to get back to Earth really fast. The trajectories I calculated actually just smoothly move them right up to Mars. Like they match Mars's velocity. It's a constantly accelerating ion engine craft. Now, worth pointing out. Sorry.
Awesome. More questions? Andy, I have a question for you. While Rob, no, Rob, you can. Just a quick question. Listen to your description of how you developed such incredible device. Did NASA or any company approach you to actually work for them and design stuff?
No.
Or you just do that for fun and people don't care and just say, okay, it makes sense. Yeah. Physical is fine.
Yeah, I got a lot of positive feedback from NASA and stuff, but of course, you know, it's a whole nother level of reality to actually do this stuff for a living. I mean, sure. My only job was to make it sound plausible.
Okay. Fair.
I don't have to be right. I just have to make you think I'm right.
Rob.
So I don't have exactly a technical question. Mine basically boils down to this: why disco?
Why disco? Well,
that's a terrible, cruel thing to do to one. Why? And if you were in a situation, what would you want on your little iPhone as a friend?
Well, I guess the main thing was I just wanted that to be a running gag. Like he's like, oh my god, and I have nothing but disco, like just additional insult to injury. And truth is, I actually like disco, and all my friends give me crap for it, but I actually like it. So there. What I would want to listen to, I don't know, probably 80s synth crap. That's what I grew up with, so that's what I like.
And then one more: if your boss had to bribe you with Star Trek or Star Wars memorabilia to pull off an impossible mission, go to the office at 3 a.m., set up cops in the factory, what would you want? What would you ask of your NASA boss if they offered you anything for extra?
Doctor Who stuff.
Oh, Doctor Who.
I'm a big Doctor Who fan. That's my favorite sci-fi.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, there you go. No, you right here.
So you mentioned that you modeled the orbital trajectories, and with an ion drive in there, that makes things pretty complicated. And I'm curious if you could elaborate on what all you did with regard to modeling that.
Yeah, I wrote software to do it. I'm a computer programmer, so you know, when the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So I'm like, I'm a computer programmer. I need to solve this, and so I wrote software. You can see it. I don't think I could demonstrate it over here because I've learned that even with screen sharing, the software doesn't show up too well when it's, you know, when it goes over a video pipe. But you can see it on a Google talk I did if you're curious. I give a whole demo of the software I wrote and how it works. But basically, it let me say, like, okay, at any given point, what direction is the ship pointing? It has a constant acceleration. What direction is the ship pointing? And then it'll forward calculate its trajectory. And how do I put it? The angle that the ship has with respect to the sun will be preserved as it's moving along on its trajectory. Okay. And then, so you can say at this point, go to this angle. And then here, when it gets to here, change it to be like this, and so on. And I was able to figure out a path that made it catch up to Mars and match its velocity. and then doing the same thing to get back to Earth and stuff. So yeah, it was fun.
Groovy. Are the movie folks using it?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not sure. I mean, they are using like the concepts and they're all that stuff's definitely in the screenplay, but actually showing the orbital paths and everything, I'm not sure. I'll have to find out when I see the movie.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was actually, yeah.
So I'm kind of curious where Watney's sense of humor comes from.
Pretty much it's my own personality. Well, sort of. Watney is like the parts I like about myself and none of my flaws, right? And he's also better than me at everything that I like. So he's smarter than me, he's funnier than me, he's way braver than me, and he doesn't have any of my flaws. So he's kind of like what I wish I were. And I think that's what all main characters are, is somebody the author wants to be or someone the author wants to screw. It's pretty much always one of those two. For the record, I would be Watney.
Awesome. You have another question? Oh, Max.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
I can see it.
I'm wondering, what's your next plan? Do you have another book in mind? Do you want to go back to programming?
Yeah, I'm working on my next book now. I already have a contract with Random House, which is funny. After The Martian released, it sold really well, and they're like, "Okay, what's your next book going to be?" And I'm like, "All right, well, here it is." And I spent a couple of months working on the science behind my next hard sci-fi novel idea and everything like that. And I'm like, "Here it is," and they're like, "We don't like it." So I went and worked up a different story, and that one they liked. And so I'm working on that book now. It's a more traditional sci-fi. It's like soft sci-fi. It's got faster than light travel and aliens and telepaths and stuff like that. Yeah. It's tentatively titled Zhek, Z-H-E-K, and it should be out in early 2016.
Yeah. So are you not going to go back to programming, or?
Well, not as long as I can keep getting away with writing, because that is my dream. But I did. I mean, I really liked programming. I was sad when I left my job. I liked my job and I liked my coworkers, and it was kind of, you know, I still go and have lunch with them sometimes. But yeah, this is my dream, so I've got to follow it. Yeah. As long as it'll keep me fiscally solvent, I'll keep doing it.
Yeah. Thanks, Andy.
Sure thing.
Andy, I have a question for you. So what's your background?
My background. I was
What
born at a very early age.
Okay.
What? No. What? My background is in computer science. Yeah, for sure. That's what I did in college. Although I dropped out of college because I ran out of money. Yay! And I was programming computers for 25 years. I worked. People are often surprised to hear this little bit of trivia. I was one of the programmers on Warcraft 2. I worked for Blizzard back then. So that was a long time ago. Yep. But most of the stuff I've done has been B2B stuff. It's just like really boring. I mean, boring to describe software, you know, but paid the bills.
Okay, awesome. Josh?
I'll switch gears with it. Before realizing it, I read The Egg and really enjoyed that. I was wondering what the inspiration for that short story was.
I just wanted to come up with like a set of rules such that it turns out life is fair. That's basically what I wanted. Was it turns out life is fair after all, and I'm like, well, how could that be? And so that's what I came up with. It's not any sort of personal belief system or anything. It's just fiction. I get that question a lot. People are like, do you really believe that? And I'm like, no. I also wrote a serial, a children's book, or half of one, about a mermaid. I don't believe in mermaids either, you know.
Thank you.
Awesome. More questions.
So just off screen, the cat is now chewing on me. There he goes.
Oh. There you go. We have another one.
Yes.
when the book was first recommended to me, it was described as Atomic Robo in space. And I was wondering if you'd ever read any of that, or if you had any other inspirations for the book.
Well, Atomic Robo, I don't know that. But yeah, I'd say one of my main inspirations was Apollo 13, both the real life events and the movie. I mean, it's that sort of feel, right? It's like this gritty, oh crap, everything's broken. Now it's all about what can our technology do as opposed to what was it designed to do. Yeah, that and maybe a little bit of MacGyver.
Awesome, Arun.
Hi. I'm sure you get this fairly often, but why botany?
Well, for the one of the primary plot lines is that he grows his own food to survive, and I figured, if I tried to do that with my complete lack of knowledge, I would die. Right. I mean, I would not be able to. I mean, it's very unlikely I'd be able to just grow potatoes on a whim. But if I said like, oh, well, he's a botanist and he was there to study plant growth in Martian soil and stuff like that, then it removes all implausibility, right? It's like you immediately say like, well, yeah, of course. I mean, this is his whole profession. He knows exactly how to grow plants, and so it was to make the story plausible, I guess.
Cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, Rob has one more. Rob sent me a set of like 10 questions that I could ask, so he wouldn't be the only one asking.
So I know you said that you don't really have much involvement with the movie, but how excited are you to have the scene where Sean Bean is sitting at the meeting for a Project Elrond?
Yeah.
One is simply not driving to Chaparelli.
Right. Yes, and that's funny because that's in the screenplay, and like Ridley Scott, the director, wanted to take it out. He's like, well, that's silly now that like Sean Bean is actually in the scene. We shouldn't have that reference. It's kind of silly. And the studio was like, oh no, you leave that in. that's staying in there. So someone at the studio just loved the way all of that lined up.
How often do you go watch like they're making a movie, or do you don't go at all?
I had nothing to do. I didn't go watch them. I could have if I wanted to,
Okay.
but they filmed in Budapest, which is
wow.
not convenient to get to, and also out in the desert in Jordan. So neither of these are places that I was willing to go all the way to just to kind of be underfoot and try to stay out of the way while they film. So it would have been exciting, but it was just too much travel for me. And they're done filming now, so it's all in post-production now.
Awesome. More questions? There's one more.
So you'll have to bear with me a little bit because it's the next book on my reading list. But so I've just been wondering about the time frame that you chose to put this in, because I know, especially with a lot of sci-fi and hard sci-fi, if you put it way in the future, then it's a little bit easier to take liberties with it. But if you put it right up close to present time, it can be much more difficult to think of what is possible and what is believable.
Mm-hmm. It actually takes place, or it begins in 2035, although that's not stated in the book. That is when, so when doing the orbital trajectory stuff, I had to pick a launch window. So like the positions of Earth and Mars, mattered. And so I ended up picking one in 2035. It fit with all the stuff I needed. And what's interesting is like I went out of my way not to ever specifically mention the date, because I didn't want people like thinking along those lines. It's just something that's kind of near future, right? But it was 2035, and all the stuff is accurate to 2035, including, like I said, the transmission times between Earth and Mars, et cetera. And one of my readers back calculated the dates just from information in the novel. And I thought that was pretty impressive. He got it correct to the day, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So earlier on in interviews, I wouldn't tell people when the story took place. I'm like, oh, it's in the near future, on the order of 20 years. But now that guy's like, yeah, I concluded Sol 6 was November 12th, 2035, and he's right. So like, all right, well now you know.
All right, thanks.
Uh-huh.
Final. Oh, there's one. Lynn. Yep. Oh, there you go. Here, there you go.
Who's your favorite science fiction author?
Well, that's tough. I grew up reading kind of baby boomer sci-fi stuff, and so it was like Asimov and Clarke and Heinlein. If I have to pick one, I'll probably say Isaac Asimov. Yep.
Awesome. More questions? Finals? 1, 3. Okay. Andy.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks for having
you
me.
have no idea how this is great, and I think people are pretty happy with this.
Oh, looks like another question up front here.
Yeah, no.
YouTube thing.
Oh, I mean,
Thing?
there's. I mean, if I access now, it's gonna like my voice will be in the back, but there's people. Yeah, maybe say because we're streaming this on YouTube as well.
Uh-huh.
So if you wanna say hi to YouTube people, just in case.
Hi, YouTube people.
Awesome. that was an issue, but that's good. Hi,
I guess
YouTube people.
for the people in the classroom, if I'm talking to you, I should do this. Right? Is that about where you are? Something like that.
There you go. Now you're talking to them.
Pay no attention to the man behind the laptop.
There you go.
YouTube, right? So cats.
There we go.
There we go.
Something like that for sure. Awesome. So Andy, we have 4 copies of your book. You're probably signing them, or you sign. Did you get my books yet?
I get a lot of books. I mean,
okay.
I when people mail me books with return labels, I sign them and send them back. So.
Oh, okay.
Did you do
I
that?
return label on mine, but we'll figure that out later. But,
yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I remember this. And yeah, I thought I sent them to you. Didn't I? There was somebody who was sending it to me. I'm not sure if you're the one, but yeah, I guess they wanted it by today. I remember, so it's probably you. And I never received them.
okay.
I never received them, so I took 4 of my own copies, signed them, and mailed them off.
Okay. So I'll be receiving them shortly, which is great. But I also ordered 3 from Amazon directly to your place. So you're probably gonna receive them tomorrow, I think, because I ordered Monday.
Okay.
Let's see.
Otherwise,
you get 4 free copies of your own book. So.
Yes. Well, you should have 4 of my copies headed to you anyway. So.
We're gonna get
So you should let me know when you get those.
Okay, we'll do. Perfect. So we'll raffle those for the people that are here.
Okay.
They will take home a copy of your book. And also, I'd like to thank you so much for putting the time on this and answering the questions. And you're super nice. And any final thoughts?
No, just thanks for having me. And I'm glad you guys had a good time.
Awesome. So final round of applause.
All right. Well.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, Andy.